The Cooperative Elevator Company, in its 100th year of service, is proud of its growth, marketing efforts, and grateful for the cooperation and support from 1,000 or more stockholders. Our patrons year after year have delivered high-quality produce, therefore positioning the cooperative as a major food supplier for populations around the world. We achieved these goals because, in unity there is strength. Our forefathers were blessed with having a high degree of ambition and the ability to succeed. Through their efforts and the generations of dedicated farmers that followed, the Saginaw Valley has become the richest and most productive farmlands in Michigan. Let's look back 100 years ago. The Thumb area, following two great forest fires, was showing promise for having tillable land. But first, they had to clear the land of fallen trees and stumps. The soil proved to be ideal for the production of a variety of crops. In 1903, the village of Pigeon was established at the crossroads of the Pontiac, Oxford, and Northern Line and the ST&H Railroad. Three businessmen from the community formed the Pigeon Milling Company, constructing a flour mill next to the P.O.N.N. railroad siding. They sold a product called White Rose flour. By 1913, they were having good results with navy beans and employed 50 women to pick higher quality beans in the processing operations. This same year, a local group of farmers formed a committee to organize and solicit a stock offering for the purchase of the Pigeon Milling Company. In 1914, the cooperative became a reality with the $25,000 purchase of the buildings and the property of the milling company. The elevator storage capacity at the time was only 30,000 bushel. Wheat was selling at $1.07 a bushel, oats 53 cents, corn 80 cents, and beans $2.55. The startup years were difficult due to undercapitalization. In 1918, Henry Klevish became the general manager, bringing new skills and offering new services such as coal and kerosene deliveries. By 1930, the automobile was a common sight throughout the Thumb area. The cooperative now offers fuel oil services and opens a gas station with 2 pumps. Sales from oil and gas reached $14,500 that year. Stockholders in 1932 approved the construction of a gas and service station at the corner of Main and Nint Streets, which is now the location of the Pigeon Library. During the Depression years, the cooperative had steady growth. By 1936, a new elevator building was constructed in front of the milling operations. Dry beans are now becoming a reliable crop, and more acreage is dedicated to this production effort. August of 1938, local farmers had an excellent wheat crop, making it possible to complete a major shipment filling 11 rail cars. In 1939, after 21 years of service, Henry Klevish stepped down, and Alfred Roberts became the new general manager. This same year, the co-op built a super service station on Michigan Avenue, providing gasoline, lubrication services, fuel oil, tires, plus auto and tractor repair. By 1940, supplemental fertilizer was becoming necessary to ensure better crop yields. During the war years of 1941 to 1945, navy beans were in great demand to provide food for our soldiers, plus our British and Russian allies. 40 women were active pickers of number 1 grade beans used for canning. A picker in one shift could sort 500 pounds of beans. The first concrete silos at Pigeon were built in 1950. These continuous pour structures, when completed, held 160,000 bushels of dry beans. In 1954, a new feed milling plant was constructed, and in 1956, a new corn handling facility was built, as corn was becoming the leading cash crop at this time. By 1961, another corn plant expansion was needed, and storage increased to 300,000 bushel capacity. The cooperative's gross sales in 1962 reached $2 million, serving 1,200 patrons. With better crop yields, there was a need to add more concrete silos in 1963, adding another 130,000 bushels of capacity. 1965 marks the co-op's 50th year anniversary, having a good year with sales of $3.3 million. Also announcing benefits to patrons which exceed cash payments over $1.5 million and retained dividends of $865,000 to invest in facilities. We now have 40 employees. Construction begins in 1966 on a new bean processing plant, which will have added storage on Burn Street. This year, 500 rail cars are filled with wheat, corn, and beans. The co-op, with 27 silos, now has capacity of 700,000 bushel. In 1967, after 40 years of service, including 28 years as general manager, Al Roberts retires and Norman Scholze becomes the new general manager. This same year, we have another good year for dry bean production, requiring additional storage silos at the new bean plant. This brings the co-op's total storage capacity to 950,000 bushels, and sales exceed $3.6 million. With a good economy and a good growing season, 1970 is a banner year for the cooperative, with sales exceeding $4.2 million. And a year later, sales increased to nearly $5.5 million. Patron loyalty, weather conditions, commodity prices, and market timing were key factors in the cooperative's significant growth. New administration offices were built in 1972 on the south side of East Michigan Avenue. 8 people, including the general manager, are now handling daily operations. Across the street, a farm store was built. 1972 sales reached $7.1 million. The co-op now benefits from rapid growth and excellent timing in sales. In 1974, General Manager Norman Scholze retired after 37 years of service, leaving only to serve 4 years in World War II. Ted Leiprant now becomes the new General Manager.
I was hired as CEO and General Manager in 1974, and I continued in that capacity until 1987. We had a great board of directors, and they were just so committed to staying ahead of the farming operations, which were expanding at really a rapid pace. And so we had building projects scheduled every year except one during that time. Our first building project was in Pigeon in 1975, which was a bulk fertilizer handling facility. We added a lot of equipment at that time as well. Our second major expansion was in 1976. We built a new grain handling facility and purchased track to be able to accommodate our first loading of 65 car unit trains. In 1977, we added another grain receiving pit, which allowed us to receive 30,000 bushels per hour, and that year we exceeded $17 million in sales. In those days, we had approximately 50 employees, and about 1,500 stockholders were being served, and we covered a radius of about 15 miles. In 1980, our patrons were growing black beans under contract for shipments to Mexico. 1980 was the year we acquired and renovated the Akron elevator. In Pigeon, the following year, 4 large steel tanks were constructed, which brought the total storage capacity to 5.4 million bushels. In 1981, the construction of the dry bean plant began, which made it possible to handle a variety of dry beans and black beans. In 1983, we acquired the Elkton terminal facilities, built additional silos there, which brought our total storage capacity to 7.5 million bushels and greatly expanded our service area to the east. In 1985, we acquired the Sebring Cooperative through a merger. At that time, it seemed prudent to change the name from Pigeon Cooperative Elevator Company to Cooperative Elevator Company. As farmers bought or leased more farmland, our stockholder base was reduced. The crop yields were good and we needed more storage capacity. 3 concrete domes were built at the Elkton plant, which increased our capacity to 8.2 million bushels. In 1986, the Petroleum Division underwent extensive remodeling. New fuel tanks and pumps were installed. A card reader system that allowed our customers to pump their own gasoline and have it charged to their account was added. This was a very revolutionary process, as credit card purchases of fuel came along some years later.
I became president and CEO in 1987. Although I started at the co-op in 1961, I took over for Ted and decided that I wanted to expand the marketing department, and he was a likely one that I could bring in to market beans for us. So he thought it over for about 6 months and decided to come in and assist our bean marketing department. And with him traveling around the country and around the world, it improved our marketing and expanded our bean department. There always seemed like there was a lot of projects going on at the co-op. In 1990, we merged the Elkton Co-op in with the Cooperative Elevator Company and boosting our storage to 11.5 million bushel of storage. In 1994, we needed more storage capacity at Akron plant, so we built 3 large bins there, bringing our total capacity then up to 12 million. In 1996, we merged Ruth Co-op in with us, and that increased our storage capacity another 1.5 million bushel, but more importantly, it increased our customer base. In 1998, we converted our specialty feed plant at our Elkton terminal location to a Navy bean processing plant, which we were needing because we could not process all of the beans that we were handling at our Pigeon location. In the year 2000, we purchased 5 fertilizer plants from Country Mark. They were the old Terra plants, and they were located at Elkton, Bad Axe, Fairgrove, Guerra, and North Branch. That increased our employees to 199 at that time. I think some of the challenges that the farmer has today, one big challenge would be food safety. Everyone is so aware of getting something that isn't good for you, genetically altered, different types of sprays on them. They have to be so careful in what they use, how they grow these crops, and especially how they store them. So I think that's a big challenge today, along with who's going to be farming the farms in 20 years from now. You look at the age of the farmer today, sure, there are a few young ones here and there, but a lot of them are getting up to the point where in 20 years they won't be farming, and who will be farming today? You just can't go out today and afford to buy a farm and the machinery, all the equipment that you need to operate a farm and make it profitable. The cost of land today and machinery is almost prohibitive.
I started at the co-op in January of 1979 and went through August of 2003, so that's just short of 25 years. And during that 25 years, it was a very rapid time of consolidation in agriculture. both at the farm level and within agribusiness. We saw many farmers that were enlarging at that time and putting together different entities where one farmer would provide feed for the livestock industry, and then the manure from that would go back to those farmers, and those kind of efficiencies were being built. That was a time of real rapid consolidation, and it seems today we've slowed that down a little bit, both farm level and certainly within agribusiness. We do see farmers, though, continuing to get bigger, and that's kind of an economy of scale. They really need to continue to grow. Young farmers today that have bought expensive equipment, they need to farm more acres, and we have been able to do that because of the technology improvements. This equipment today, with computerization and satellites and GPS and auto steer and all the different technologies that they have enabled farmers to farm in a much bigger way than they ever did, as far as even planning at night, if they need to do that because of GPS. So they can handle more acres, and it's exciting to see this kind of progress take place. And as I have been told from friends within in the industry, we have technology in terms of seed genetics and capabilities with fertilizer and chemicals that we can continue to see rapid growth in our yields and in our feed efficiency, egg production in chickens and milk per cow, all these things. We've got more to do, and I think that we'll be able to accomplish that with the technologies that we have today.
In September of 2003, Pat Anderson became the CEO of the cooperative, working with a 9-member board. At this time, our patrons are tilling more acres of land and taking advantage of the expanded services of the cooperative's fertilizer delivery and applications program. The agronomy department, using new technology and GPS mapping and plotting, continues to play an important role and service to the patrons with their soil testing operations. Getting greater yields and maintaining the soil for future planting is the goal. As more patrons are coming to the Akron plant with wheat, soys, and corn, the need to construct 3 steel bins was required. This now brings to the cooperative an overall storage capacity of 15.5 million bushels. The Ruth plant by 2008 was also in need of more storage bins, as they too had increased patronage at the receiving areas with wheat, dry beans, soys, and corn. The new bins added 500,000 bushels of capacity. In 2009, the cooperative acquired the North Branch plant and added more steel bins there, with updates to the receiving station. The Elkton terminal in 2012 was also experiencing more patrons in receiving of wheat, corn, and also soys. Therefore, a second scale was added. Also, a concrete wet bin and a 1 million bushel steel bin was constructed. The cooperative storage capacity now soars to well over 19 million bushels. By 2013, the cooperative is serving 1,100 patrons with 153 employees. Business is good. Our patrons have also experienced several years of good crop yields and profits. Let's hear from the merchandising department.
Worldwide markets for us, it's opened up quite a bit. We've always been able to ship all over the world, but you had to go and hunt for those markets and spend a lot of time traveling and try to find the customer base. Today, with the internet, these customers are contacting you because of your reputation, because of the quality, because of the name Co-op Elevator, both in Mexico, Central America, Europe. We go into Africa, and we get inquiries all the time. What I see in the future for the dry bean side of the business, there will continue to be more and more demands on quality and food safety.
So when we are approached by an end user to sell them commodities, corn, wheat, or soybeans, their choice, obviously they have a few choices. I feel they come to Co-op Elevator because we have integrity, we have the quality, we're trustworthy, and we do build relationships with those end users, and that is very important in this business.
As our product does get shipped around the world, it gets into countries that are third world countries, especially our bean products. And these people, I think we see, need a lot of help. They are not sustainable now. We are the country that's making them sustainable. But as the population of the world continues to grow, they need to become sustainable and also to be good stewards of their land in order to go to the next generation or generations of the future.
All of our plants with receiving stations have rail car loadout capability, with the exception of North Branch. At Elkton in 2014, a 9,000-ton capacity fertilizer dome was built to service a growing list of patrons in the area. In April of 2014, the Cooperative and Mondelez International presented an opportunity to our patrons called the Unity Gold White Wheat Program. Over 80 patrons took advantage of the offer. Also at Akron, a new 40,000 bushel per hour rail loadout system was added. This same year at Ruth, an updated dust control system was constructed. Receiving stations at various plants continue to be updated. At the Elkton terminal, we updated the receiving operations, providing an additional 30,000 bushel per hour pit capacity. This positions us to be the fastest and most efficient state-of-the-art plant in Michigan. When we talk about state-of-the-art operations, let's look at the pigeon-colored bean plant and take a quick tour from the receiving area to the loading of packaged beans in a rail car for delivery to Mexico. And here are some highlights of the April 2015 stockholders meeting.
I'd like to call the 100th annual meeting of the Cooperative Elevator Company to order. That deserves a round of applause. 2015 was a very good year. That's it. That's my entire review of the last year in 6 words. So what about that 100 years? What are the odds? Just how did the business do it? Research tells us that 0.5% of companies actually survive just to be around 100 years later. We are one of those companies. Today, the population of the world is at 7.2 billion people. That's a growth of 400%. The world is growing at the rate of 140 people per minute. Demand for food is expected to increase 50% over the next 25 years. With all that being said, I believe the demand for our products will be around for a long time. And with that demand, there should be no reason our company should also be around for a long, long time.
Sprinkle in some historical sales facts here. First million in sales was 1945. Top sales item, navy beans. We had 21,000 in corn sales. There was no soybean sales back then. There were no soybeans around here. First 10 million in sales in 1974. We hit almost 13 million. Top sales item, navy beans, almost 7 million. Corn sales, 1.8 million. No soybean sales.
In 1930, they entered into the oil business with the station you see beside me. Gasoline price was at 20 cents per gallon. 2015, current day, finds a cooperative with the ability to deliver 100,000 gallons per day during peak season, 3 tire centers, 2 bulk plants with over 220,000 gallons of storage capacity, 5 bulk delivery trucks, 3 gas stations, 3 farm tire service trucks, 13 employees, and sales exceeding $22 million.
This co-op has been very big in beans for many years, and we see the tide of beans becoming more in vogue or more in play as we move ahead for the future. So we want to make sure we're in position to take care of that as that business grows. Also, we're putting in money at the colored bean plant as we are going to add additional finished bin storage to become more and more efficient. As we look at handling more and more varieties, last year pink beans were our first year we handled that variety in some years. And so when we look at handling, now we're handling small reds, navies, pinos, black beans, and potentially pinks. The changeover is very costly. So the efficiencies of having the colored bean finished product bins in place is going to be well worth the money for the co-op.
A quick fact, this co-op is in the top 50 agribusinesses in the United States, according to Crop Life magazine. That definitely, the unity there is strength, isn't there?
Good morning. Happy birthday. I'd like to thank the board of directors, our current members, our patrons, and all employees. And when you look in this room, everybody here is a stockholder, or a lot of people in this room are stockholders. And without stockholders coming together, without you coming together across the trade territories, I really believe that you would not be as well off as you are by pooling your resources, because it's that volume that allows us to participate in the world markets and in the United States markets.
All of you in this room are among the most flexible, versatile producers in some of the greatest part in the third richest agricultural valley in the world. Well, I went through some history. 1960 average corn yield in Huron County is 51 bushels an acre. Last year you hit 172. Sanilac County 47.8 in 1960, 171 in 2014, and in Tuscola County 60 bushels, 178 and a half last year. And in 1960, there were a total of 720 acres of soybeans in the Tri-County area. Soybeans in Huron County 2014, 64,000 acres. Sanilac County 147,000 acres, and look at Tuscola County. The point is, soybeans are here. As we look forward, we need to talk about dry beans. This is the heart of the dry bean business in the state of Michigan. In 1915, there were over 130 different elevators that handled dry beans in Michigan. Today, we are less than a handful. And, well, it's a big handful up here. And certainly the co-op's a big part of that hand. But as you look at production acreage-wise, the significant story is, over time in Michigan, we've seen substantially fewer acres. Substantially fewer acres, but production in Huron, Sanilac, and Tuscola County, even with fewer acres, is holding pretty darn steady. But as we look to the future, the kinds of things that we're going to see happen are going to be really, really interesting. Machinery. Here I love 1937 when all those Alphabet International tractors were introduced. I didn't put John Deere up here because all of you own John Deere, so you know more about that history than I do. Talk about some other trends. Speed. Going to pull a planter 10 miles an hour? Yeah, I didn't pull my 494A at 10 miles an hour. 52-row corn planters, auto steer, monitors, technology, everybody's talked about it. We haven't seen the beginning of technology that we're going to face in agriculture. When we talk about monitors, we're going to be monitoring plants. We're going to be monitoring down to the lowest level possible. It's not just going to be a field. What's next in technology is going to be actual field level monitor, plant level monitor, instant technology to monitor what that plant needs. Because it's not going to be about looking at a field. The kinds of technology that is being evaluated right now is absolutely cutting edge. And it's not just the new high-tech companies doing it. It's Bayer, BASF, Monsanto, and everybody under the sun looking at what the new biologicals are going to do. Genetics. The changes in genetics we're going to see in the next century, again, absolutely astounding. It's not going to just be about seed. It's going to be about a crop you plant, potentially, that will fix its own nitrogen, a corn plant that fixes its own nitrogen. A corn plant that you may plant in the ground that creates what's called allelopathy in the soils that actually will kill weeds around it. We're going to see production technology that's going to help change the way you farm. Markets are going to change. You've heard a lot about sustainability. It's real and it's here to stay. Folks want to know where their food came from or comes from, and they want to look at the kinds of things that they want to buy. If somebody wants to buy a black bean that is washed, I think you can fill that demand. Other places can't do that. It's filling the opportunity for those niche markets. If you produce wheat sustainably, white wheat sustainably, if you meet that demand, that's a market opportunity.
And if you're taking care of the land, you definitely are getting that profit, and that in turn gives you that nice stewardship and sustainability for the long haul. And I think fortunately for us, because we've been in business so long, this is a generational type cooperative, and it's passed down. It's passed down from the grandfather to the father to the son. And if it wasn't sustainable and there wasn't good stewardship, they wouldn't still be here today. It was the vision, I believe, of the original members that got together and said, look, we can do this better together than we can individually. And that theme has stayed for 100 years. And it's still the theme going forward for the next 100 years, is that our motto is in unity there's strength. So we live it every day. That's what we say to our employee group. We say it all the time. Everything ends with in unity there's strength. And so it's a philosophy and it's a culture. And so that culture of bringing resources together and diversity together, that should sustain us into the future.